Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the League Racing TV YouTube channel for rounds 9 and 10 of the TTML Sprint League. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Car Mentalist. I'll be taking you through proceedings on a Wednesday night as per usual, and joining me in the commentary box once again today is Mr. Luke Etheridge. Luke, how are you this evening?
I'm very well, thanks. Good evening to you, Aidan. Good evening to everyone who is watching. Drivers obviously had a break last week because of the Esports Masters League, so it'll be interesting to see how they do this time. We had Monaco and Azerbaijan last time out, two very tight technical circuits, especially Monaco. Canada's got that sort of street circuit feel with the walls, but it's quite high speed, and France very wide open. So two very varied tracks tonight.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing, actually, that we've got two completely different circuits really ahead of us today, and two very high-speed circuits. Last time out, obviously, Baku has that high-speed run down to the first corner, but Monaco, probably one of the lowest speed tracks on the calendar that we have. Two different tracks this time around, so you've got to kind of go into both of these two tracks with a completely different mindset, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say Canada, you've got obviously the high-speed sections, but all the tracks very similar. They're all high-speed sections, all heavy braking zones. When I first started watching Formula 1, this circuit was known as a brake killer. And, of course, the first race in Canada of the hybrid era, both Mercedes had brake problems, and that allowed Ricciardo to get his first win. So that's a fairly straightforward circuit, I'd say, to set your car up for. You can see why Paul Ricard's a test circuit. First sector, very tight and twisty. Second sector, it's all about high speed. Final sector is all about downforce, so that could be an interesting track. It always seems to have good races on the game, but not so much in real life.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Barcelona in terms of how it's considered more of a test track than really a proper actual Grand Prix circuit, as to think of things like that. But the thing is with France as well is you really have to compromise on your setup for that track. You obviously have, like you say, the tight and twisty, the fast and the long and flowing corners, so you kind of have to sacrifice one sector for the next sector maybe, so you never know who's really going to come out on top and what the best setup is for that track. We're just going to take you through the standings before we get into our first qualifying session tonight. So currently Adamako still leads the way in the championship. His championship lead over his teammate Wesker is now 24 points, so that has grown after the last two rounds. Scuba up to third after a double podium last time out on 141 points, only 9 points behind Wesker now, but great start to the season for Wesker is slowly starting to fade out a little bit at this point. Cameron's fourth on 118 points ahead of Perpetuum Mobile, who picked up the second race victory last time out on 110. Graham runs sixth on 106 points ahead of Corboy, who picked up his first podium in Monaco last time out on 102. Tekken on 98 in 8th place ahead of Maze, who's 9th on 86, and Honey Badger rounds off the top 10 on 63, still yet to break that Wednesday evening curse. And looking at the top 10 we have in the standings so far, Adamako, while he's extended his championship lead, you've got to say that the Baku race last time out was the first time we've really seen Adamako make a genuine mistake.
Yeah, Baku unsurprisingly catching him out. We know he had a great result in Monaco, and if you win one of the races, because obviously both of the races are worth the same amount of points, if you win one on an evening, you can kind of get away with having a bit of a messy second race. I mean, we were looking at the points beforehand, and I think it surprised us both that he actually managed to extend his lead on Scuba last time, despite Scuba finishing on the podium both times around. It will be interesting to see how he does here, because it does look as though like Perpetuum, Scuba, and probably even Cam are starting to get into things a bit more, and I'd say probably over one lap at least they've definitely got the pace advantage. Over the race, accidents can happen, things do change. It'll be interesting to see how it goes tonight.
Yeah, we're going to ride on board, though, with AJU for a lap around Canada here. Heading into turn one, this is one of the shortest laps on the calendar in terms of time, so look out for that in this session. You can't make a mistake because you can lose a lot of time in a lot of places because of it. Through turn two, and now into the first of many chicanes on this track, down through turn 3 and 4, and then into the long turn 5, scene of obviously the massive crash at the start of the 2018 race, into turn 6 and 7 before the back straight, the first of 3 DRS zones at this track. Many DRS zones, many overtaking opportunities here. Heading down into the chicane of turn 8 and 9. It's so easy to invalidate on the inside and the exit of this corner. AJ invalidates through turn 9 as I say that, so we'll see if he continues on with this lap. We'll see what time he could have set. He's heading down towards the braking zone for turn 10, the heaviest braking zone on the track. Another overtaking opportunity if you get a good run out of 8 and 9, and now on to the second of the 3 DRS straights now, down through 11 and then through the kink of 12 before the final chicane, the Wall of Champions, one of the most famous corners in modern Formula 1. Look, make sure that you don't run out too wide and hit that wall. Bounce over those sausage curves on the inside. Looks nice and neat, but he does hit that wall on the exit of the corner, does AJU. But coming up to the line, it looks like we got Perpetuum at the front of the field, and we do, by a country mile. What a lap from Perpetuum. A 1:07.7, 9/10 of a second clear of Cam, who has really dominated qualifying so far this season. That is some lap time from Perpetuum.
That is a marker to lay down. Fantastic lap from Perpetuum. Cam in second, De Keeper up in third.
Oh, wow,
so a very good qualifying session for the McLaren drivers, and we're not used to seeing the racing points 4th and 8th.
Yeah, I mean, that's Wesker P4 at the moment, and we've seen Adam Acko this season have the edge really on Wesker in qualifying, but this time round it's Wesker that's had the edge on his teammate. Wesker 4th ahead of Faxland in 5th, good qualifying for him. Mays in 6th ahead of Ethim in 7th. Adam Acko only 8th, our championship leader. That is going to be difficult for him in this race. Ivok Zara is in 9th ahead of Turbo Clausen, who rounds off the top 10. Tekken in 11th, he did his time on the mediums. He'll start outside the top 10. Then we have Neymar, AJU, Honey Badger and Silas are those who disqualified their lap times in qualifying. Very easy to do around here, so look out for those later on in the race. AJU had a good showing last time out in his first round, and Honey Badger still yet to break that Wednesday curse, unfortunately. But yeah, that qualifying looking very interesting, but you've got to say that with a lap time like that, surely no one can beat Perpetuum in this race.
I think the only thing that could stop him is that infamous wall of champions that we saw AJ just clip at the end of his qualifying lap. This could be an interesting one on the strategy as well. Generally, the tyres have seemed to last longer in the sprint league, just because it's half the distance of the normal 50% races. You don't seem to get half the amount of tyre wear, and this is one of the tracks, because of the layout of the pit lane, you can get a 2-stop strategy to work under a 50% race. I think it will just be soft mediums as normal today, but that does mean if someone has to make a second pit stop for whatever reason, it's not as damaging as it probably would be at some other tracks.
Yeah, like you say, you don't lose a lot with the cut of the final chicane and turn 1 and 2. Usually in a normal 50% race, you would see here the 2-stop strategy be the faster of the strategies because of the short pit lane and the ability to overtake at this circuit. So that is usually the favoured strategy here, but obviously, like you say, 25% races means that it's a little bit different in strategy, and we haven't got a formation lap on, unfortunately, so we're just going to go straight into the first race of the evening. We've had a couple of people leave the session, I think. A couple of people have jumped the start, actually. Both Haas cars jumped the start there. So Ivok Zara and Turbo Clausen massively jumping the start. And Ivok Zara into turn 1 is already up to 3rd place. So he's going to go for a drive-through penalty at the end of lap 1. So is his Haas teammate Clausen, who started 10th. But Perpetuum leads the way then through the first sector. He leads ahead of Cam. Ivok Zara runs 3rd, but he will have that drive-through. He's got Keeper and Wesker directly behind him. Wesker had to take to the grass on the inside of turn 3 to avoid Keeper. Keeper did the same at 4, and Keeper loses the place. And here comes Faxland down the inside. And then Williams has a bit of contact. Keeper trying to hold 5th place, and now that was Turbo Clausen trying to get in on the act as well. He now makes contact, and Anamako works his way past. AJU has had an incredible start. He's up to 8th place already, having disqualified in qualifying. What a start from him, and he's on those soft compound tyres. Ethan runs 9th, Turbo Clausen back down to 10th place at the moment, and there's a little bit of damage towards the back of the field, unfortunately, but Perpetuum leads the way, and Perpetuum spun. I don't know if Perpetuum had contact there or if he spun on his own, but Perpetuum round in the lead of the race. I don't know if Cam hit him. We'll have to wait and see if Cam has got any damage on the front of his car. I don't think he does, but it looks like Perpetuum on lap 1 has, we might have cursed him. Perpetuum's round.
Yeah, Perpetuum round on lap 1, and I'm not sure, like you said, if there was any contact. Looking at Cam's front wing, he looks to have got through that unscathed, so big change for Perpetuum. We've got Turbo Clausen. He retires from the session in the pits. The accident in the background was Honey Badger again getting involved in some incident in the early stages, and Neymar in the Alpha Tauri. I believe Neymar's picked up a 5-second speeding penalty as well, but Cam, he's got an excellent chance. It's normally the second race of the evening we see him do better in. He's got a fantastic chance to take a victory in this first one. Yeah, let's see if he can break that trend. Ivok Zara runs second on the track, but he's still yet to serve that drive-through penalty. So this is even better for Cam, that he's got a car that's not really in play directly between him and his closest rival, which is now Wesker, who's up into a net second place. And Cam, though, already with a 3-second time penalty for track limits. We're going to see a lot of that here around Canada. So easy to extend, and I'm Silas is the next one to pick one up. He's currently running in 9th on those medium tyres, just ahead of his teammate, who is also on the medium compound tyres. They're the only two people left that started on the mediums that are still on them currently. But yeah, Wesker
Wesker running in third ahead to Keeper, who's in fourth place. That will be third when the driver's in front, when Ivoxara comes into the pit lane. Faxlands runs fifth with Perpetuum, Adamako and AJ all over the back. The two Williams cars had good starts, and AJ is looking very fast, tucked in behind Adamako at the moment. They're all just kind of forming a little bit of a queue behind Faxland at the moment. Cam crosses the line with the fastest lap of the race. Ivoxara has stayed out on track for the time being. Meanwhile, Perpetuum down the inside towards turn one. It's a shallow braking zone for turn one, and he just about gives Faxland ruin on the exit of the corner, but Perpetuum is back up into fifth place. He's got one move done. He's got four more to make if he wants to get back to the front of the field.
Yeah, I think there's been contact between Tekken and Mays, both into the pits, both changing their front wings. So Mays going back out on the medium tyres. That's interesting. Ooh. Tekken going for the safer strategy of the hard tyres. Cam absolutely flying at the front of the field, but already has that 3-second penalty. Won't want to pick up any more, really, if he can avoid it. Not good for him whatsoever. And Ethan into the pits as well, also with damage. Like you said, Ivoxara, not too bad a start. I think that lack of a formation lap, to be fair to the Haas drivers, they were as expected a formation lap, but they just set off. It didn't happen and maybe just slightly confused them. So can't imagine they're feeling too happy at the moment. And Perpetuum gets there, passing the keeper up into fourth.
Wow, that was fairly easy. Got that well before the DRS zone really came. So Perpetuum up into fourth place, make that third now because Ivoxara is into the pit lane to serve that drive-through. And the bad thing for Ivoxara there is while he was running in second, he wasn't really under any pressure at all from Wesker. So he had decent pace. It's a shame he's picked up that drive-through. He will come out though in a lot of clean air behind Silas. So he's got a lot of ground to make up, but he's got the ability to do so in that clean air. He's not out of the picture just yet. That puts Wesker now into second place, but already at the start of lap 4, he's 3.5 seconds behind Cam. Perpetuum's back up to third after that spin, and he's looking to work his way back forwards again. He's within DRS range of Wesker, and it's only really a matter of time before he gets this move done on the Racing Point car. Perpetuum is absolutely flying, but that spin, it's going to be difficult for him to try and close back in on Cam as Honey Badger is out of the session.
Yeah, that is at the wall of Champion Chicane by the looks of things, and he's left the session as well, so yellow flags at that point. I'm just going on board with Ethan to see where it is, and his car is carrying on, so I'm not sure whether he just hit the wall and damaged it and decided that he'd had enough. And I think soon Wesker, whether he likes it or not, he's not going to have second place for much longer. Perpetuum with so much pace at the moment. Like you said, just a shame that he spun early on. The penalty for Cam could help him, but that Racing Point, a bit like real life, seems to have supreme straight line speed.
Yeah, and Perpetuum nearly got caught up behind him. Meanwhile, Adamako is going to go past Faxland, and they both went deep into the chicane. Adamako picks up a time penalty. Faxland bails out of the chicane and dives into the pit lane at the last moment. So he's in. I don't know if he's picked up damage because of contact from Adamako, but that was a bit of a bold move from the Racing Point man, making his way up into fifth place on the road, but getting a penalty at the same time. Meanwhile, Perpetuum has got his way past Wesker into turn one, so he's up into second place. 3.5 seconds is the gap. He only needs to gain half a second to be in the net race lead, so he doesn't have to push as hard, but being Perpetuum, he'll probably want to win this one on track just in case he picks up a penalty himself. Wesker now runs third ahead to keep a fourth, Adamako fifth, and AJ up to sixth. What a start it's been for AJ from the back of the field, now running sixth within the battle for the podium at the moment. This could be a really good race for him.
Yeah, he's looking pretty good at the moment. Like you said, a fantastic start on the first lap. Maybe just taking advantage of a bit of that chaos. He's got himself up into sixth. He's in the DRS range of Adamako, but doesn't really look at the moment as though he's going for the pass, but can obviously save himself a bit of ERS maybe for later on in the race, save himself a bit of fuel as well. Not doing too badly at the moment. He'll be fairly happy at the moment. Adamako, meanwhile, he's got a penalty, and actually never mind that, AJ is going for the move on Adamako, but the Racing Point dives into the pits and AJ picks up a penalty.
Yeah, picks it up on the exit of the corner. I don't think he was expecting Adamako to come in. He went for the move and then obviously compromised his run through the chicane. That's why he's picked up that penalty, unfortunately, but he's now up into fifth place. 1.8 seconds to Keeper in front. Keeper now looking to get a move past Wesker and back up into third place. So after a good start from Wesker, the pace at the moment, his race pace just doesn't seem as strong as we first maybe thought at the start of this one. He's starting to fall back through the field a little bit. Perpetuum's already passed him. Cam's disappeared off into the distance, and now the second McLaren of Keeper is looking to make a move stick as well, and AJ isn't too far back either. Further down then, Adamako Pitts comes out 7th place on the road, 8.6 seconds behind Silas on a set of medium compound tyres. We'll wait and see where he comes out. Faxland, by the time he has lost, we would imagine he's had a front wing change, and that's why he pitted a little bit earlier. Wesker, the next person to pick up a time penalty, now in third place, so that already puts Keeper ahead of him, and Perpetuum's already within 3 seconds. He's taken a second out of Cam in about the last lap and a half, so Perpetuum is still looking to win this one on track.
Yeah, it's not like Wesker's pace is terrible compared to Cam's. He's losing maybe a tenth or two a lap. It's just, he obviously hasn't got DRS, so that makes it very hard to get away from the keeper. And Perpetuum is absolutely flying as the pair of them come into the pit. So both McLaren staying out on track, interestingly. This could compromise, especially the keeper. If he decides he wants to come in next lap, he might get caught up ever so slightly in the double stack. And that promotes AJ up into third. And this could be interesting to see where Perpetuum and Wesker come out relative to some of these other cars.
Yeah, where is Wesker relative to his teammate Adamako? Adamako's had a lap on these medium tyres. How powerful is the undercut here? AJ picks up his second time penalty already, unfortunately. Adamako coming through turn 1. Wesker's going to skip turn 1 and go straight to turn 2 through the pit lane. So Wesker holds a place against his teammate, and Adamako doesn't seem to have gained that much time on his teammate. So maybe the undercut not that powerful. As Neymar's the next person to retire. He's another one that has crashed at the Wall of Champions. So that's our second driver in this race that's retired at the Wall of Champions. Unfortunately, we're down to 13 drivers. Remember, that's the one thing about the Sprint Championship is you score points no matter where you finish in this one. So those 3 drivers missing out on crucial points in this championship. Back to the front of the field though, Cam still leads, but you've got to say, with the pace that Perpetuum's going, this move to pit early and try the undercut could work wonders for him.
Oh, it could work absolutely fantastically. And of course, in this sprint league, there is no safety car. So many of these accidents, there's no point waiting for a safety car. Cam does come into the pits, and it will be a set of medium tyres, and he should still come out fairly comfortably ahead of Perpetuum. But I don't think it's going to be a comfortable end to the race for him. The keeper going out a bit longer, so he's not going to be threatening Wesker, and you never know, maybe even Adamako could get close to him, and we could see the 2 Racing Point drivers working together. Likewise with AJ, he was behind Adamako, so he'll probably, well, almost certainly stay behind, and he'll just be hoping that his tyres are in better condition towards the end of the race.
Cam's been massively held in the pit lane. I don't know if he had a front wing change, but look where he's come out. He's come out behind Perpetuum and Wesker. He's lost loads of time in the pit lane. I saw him stopped in the pit box. I thought that was maybe just a little bit of a glitch visually on my end, but no, he was actually held in his box, but that was after he made the stop. So I don't know if he just didn't release the clutch or something coming out of his pit lane, but he's dropped 3 places just as Perpetuum picks up a time penalty as well. So that opportunity for Cam to win the first race of the evening could have gone once again.
Going back to lap 1, did he just have a slight bit of front wing damage on the back of Perpetuum and thought, you know what, it's better for me to just change the wing now? We don't know. We don't know, of course. We didn't see the pit stop, unfortunately. But yeah, that has really cost him. Wesker's going to have DRS this time around on Silas, and to be fair, Wesker's not doing too bad with Perpetuum at the moment. Whether he just got held up ever so slightly behind Silas, we'll have to see, who might be carrying on for another few laps yet as Wesker goes down the inside, gets that position done. Ooh, there's a bit of contact there with Silas going into the back. Cam picking up another penalty. We've now seen the keeper and AJ come in, so it's really only Silas, I think, who's yet to come into the pit. So he could make it a bit difficult for these guys because he's still going to have DRS, of course.
Yeah, he is, and already Cam trying to get the move done down the inside towards turn 3 and 4, and he is going to get it done. Silas leaves him the space, so he's now up into 3rd place. Silas stands a 4th, and to keeper just out of the pit lane on the freshest medium tyres in at this front of the pack at the moment. 5th just behind his teammate with no penalty, so keep an eye out on to keeper at the end of this one. If he keeps it clean, that could really help him. His teammate in front has 6 seconds. Wesker and Perpetuum both have 3, and he is within penalty range of Wesker at the moment, not of Perpetuum, as he goes down the inside towards turn 8. Going to get the move done on Silas and keeps the car on the road, so he's now up into 4th place. So this could be a really, really good race for Takeeper. Adamako, meanwhile, runs 6th. AJ came out of the pit lane directly behind him, and AJ's tyres nearly 4 laps fresher already. So that's a great opportunity for AJ to start working his way forwards as well in the Williams, but he's got quite a few penalties in this race, so he's going to hope for maybe a little bit of carnage. And we still can't count Faxland out of this one either, because he's only 3.5 seconds back, showing decent pace and doesn't have a penalty himself either. So the penalties could be the deciding factor today.
Yeah, they could be indeed. It is the case quite often. Silas is fighting back here on Adamako. He's down the inside into turn 1. He can't go as late on the brakes, obviously. A bit of contact between them, but Adamako manages to get ahead. I mean, a lot of people will be saying, why Silas battling? He's entitled to. This is for position. He might still have a pit stop to make, but he's clearly enjoying himself at the moment, and now he's just holding AJ up ever so slightly. And I'm surprised how close AJ came out of the pits to Adamako, because there was a big difference when Adamako pitted, so I either thought he'd have gained a bit on the undercut. Clearly not, though.
Yeah, clearly undercut not working very well. I wonder if these medium tyres maybe just aren't quite as fast as people may initially have thought they would have been, because the soft tyres, we didn't really see a lot of people losing pace, as now Adamako picks up his 2nd penalty of the race, so that's going to cost him with the battle of the drivers in front of him at the moment. right in on the back of Wesker for second place, and he's dragging his teammate with him. So this is interesting. How does this work for the two McLaren cars? Cam is going to go for the move, you would imagine, down to this chicane, but he's got absolutely no ERS to use to get the move done. I think he used all of his ERS while he was at the front of the field and then had a slow stop, and he's just missed the chicane there as well, so he's not going to get the best of runs coming out of the corner either. Wesker's going to hold this place for the time being down towards turn 1. On to lap 11 of this race. Wesker is holding second for the time being. Wesker at the start of the season, remember, had a six race run of podium finishes. That went really down the drain and hasn't been on the podium since that run has finished. Looking to get his first podium in about 4 races. Let's see if he can pull it off, and at the moment he will just hold on to Cam down the inside. That's an opportunistic move down the inside of turn 5. Wesker doesn't give him a lot of room though. Cam goes for an audacious move and it doesn't work, and now Keeper is trying to get the move done on his teammate.
Yeah, and I think he might have a chance. Cam very low on ERS at the moment, about 5% just before he hit the braking zone of the turn 8-9 chicane. I'm not sure why he went for a move then. It didn't look like it was really on, and Wesker, he'll be looking quite comfortable now, as that is a send into the hairpin by Cam. Wesker saw that coming from a mile off. Now it's just a straight drag race between the two, and like I said, Wesker's got more ERS. Even though he hasn't got the DRS, I think he's going to be able to hold this off, and Keeper, by the way this is going, Keeper might be better just hanging back ever so slightly, because who knows what could happen as there's a move down the inside into the chicane. Cam does get that position now. He's up into second. That exit compromised Wesker. Keeper takes third.
Yeah, brilliant opportunistic driving there from Keeper. Now the question for his race is, can he keep close enough to his teammate to nick second off him at the end of this one? That would be great for his race. Now ahead of Wesker, and all the drivers behind him have penalties, so Keeper not really under threat from anyone behind anymore. Meanwhile, AJ's got the moved on, and Adamako, so he's now up into 5th place. Keeper, as we say that though, picks up his first time penalty, but that's not going to cost him anything to the drivers behind at the moment. He will still get ahead of Cam if he stays within 3 seconds of his teammate, so we'll have to wait and see how he does. And he's got a lot more ERS than his teammate to use, so that should be quite easy for him to stick close to him. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Perpetuum now leads by 5.5 seconds. You can't imagine that this man spun at the start of this race, because the lead he's got now is quite large. AJ with yet another penalty as he tries to close in on the back of Wesker, but AJ passed Adamako, sorry, down into the chicane, and he's already a second clear. Adamako just doesn't seem to have any pace here.
Yeah, to be honest, qualifying pretty much showed that he was in 7th place, and there were some quick drivers, AJ being one of them, clearly, that didn't set a valid qualifying lap. So AJ's doing pretty well at the moment. Penalty-wise, he does have 14 seconds, though, at this moment. That is a large amount of penalties to say we've only done, 12 laps of this race. It's just going on to lap 13, so that's going to cost him big style at the end. It'll cost him to his teammate. If he picks up a few more, who knows? It could cost him to Ivok Sava as well. You've got to think Ivok Sava, he'd be hanging around this top 5, top 6 at the moment if it wasn't for the drive-through. Yeah,
it's not doing too badly. 8 seconds behind Faxan, currently about 12 seconds behind Adamako, and that is about a drive-through around this track. Obviously, with the cut-off you have at the final corner and the first 2 corners, so he's doing a solid job at the moment. Well clear of Mays, who runs 9th after that early pit stop as well, and then Silas, after his pit stop in the race, is back out in 10th place, but has front wing damage, unfortunately, so he's not going to be able to get the most out of those soft compound tyres. No one that was on the alternate strategy has really been able to make it work. They've either got damage early on, or they've just not really had the pace on the medium tyres. Have not looked that strong here. They haven't really had the pace at the start of the race or in the mid part of this race. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Perpetuum's not pulling away that much more from Cam, but he doesn't really need to. And Cam is trying his best to pull away from Keeper, but Keeper's ERS advantage is keeping him within range. Keeper, this is his best race of the season so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think his best result up until this was, I think I remember him getting 5th in Australia, I believe it was, around the first race of the season. But yeah, Cam needs to save his ERS, which there's a lot of heavy braking zones, which is good for your ERS, but unsurprisingly, heavy braking zones usually come at the end of really long straights, which is bad for your ERS. He could struggle here. If the Keeper gets close enough and gets a good exit out of that final hairpin, it's going to be very tough indeed, I think, for Cam to defend, especially if he gets it done over the next couple of laps. Yeah, and the good thing though for Keeper is that he doesn't really have to make that move unless he gets another penalty, so he can just stick where he is and still pick up that second place. He doesn't need to take the risks, whereas if he does get another penalty, he will have to try and do so, and I imagine that Cam will probably put up quite a fight. He doesn't want to lose any more places in this championship battle, especially with Adamako struggling at the moment, down in 6th place and not able to keep with the drivers in front of him at the moment. This is working out beautifully though for Perpetuum in the championship standings. Obviously currently 5th in the standings on 110 points, 64 points off the championship lead, but he will be
eating into that lead at the moment in this race, as will Wesker, as will Cam. Scuba unfortunately not here tonight, so he won't be able to take part, he won't be able to enjoy the benefits of Adamako having probably one of his poor showings so far. So have to wait and see how this affects the championship coming out of tonight. TTGaming again getting a great run through the chicane, but just not close enough to make a move into turn 1 on Cam, and they are now 6.6 seconds behind Perpetuum, who continues to pull away at the front of the field. After that spin, I was for sure certain that Cam maybe had this one in the bag and that Perpetuum was going to struggle to get back to the front, but Cam obviously had that mistake in the pit lane, and Perpetuum has just been unreachable.
It's just been absolutely fantastic. We're wondering in qualifying whether other drivers had made a mistake, because that gap over one lap, 9/10 of a second, is amazing. He's proven that. Without that spin, he'd probably be 13, 14 seconds ahead of Cam at the moment. It's just been an absolutely fantastic job, and it just looks so easy for him at the moment. If he carries this on for the rest of the season, it could be really, really tough for anyone to stop him. His teammate, Ethan, retires in the pit, so that promotes Tekken up into 11th place at the moment, he's doing the best thing. He's just driving around doing his own race at the moment at the back of the field, but he's going to get 11th place out of it, maybe more if we see any more mistakes. The keeper, like you said, it doesn't look like he's really going for Cam, and AJ is close to Wesker, but again, no ERS, can't really do anything about the racing point.
Yeah, Wesker just sticking in front for the time being, just trying to hold on to this 4th place, trying to gain as many points as he can on his teammate, who is still running 6th with more penalties than his teammate as well. And at the moment, I think Adamako, with that 6 seconds of penalties, is going to lose out to Faxand if Faxand stays where he is. So even with an early pit stop and a front wing change, Faxand is still right in the thick of this battle. So he's done a brilliant job in this race, has he? Meanwhile, by the way, I just want to let you know that to keep a running 3rd, we obviously had that 5th place in Australia. He's only scored 36 points this entire season. He's 15th in the standings, and to think he's running in 3rd place at the moment, sticking with Cam, who's arguably one of the fastest drivers in this sprint league. This is a massive upturn in performance for TTGaming, and this could throw him right into the battle with the bottom end of the top 10 with the likes of Maze, Honey Badger and Tekken. So look out for TTGaming as the season goes on, see if he can keep this pace up. But like you were saying with Perpetuum as well in qualifying, 9/10 of a second clear of the rest of the field around Canada, which is one of the shortest tracks in terms of lap time of the whole season, and with only about 11 corners that really matter out of the 14 that we officially have. So the fact that he's got this advantage at this track, I'm kind of scared for the other drivers as to what advantage Perpetuum could have in France.
I think they'll be hoping that this is just a track that he really, really enjoys, otherwise it is bad news for everyone else. Like I said, for the rest of the season, never mind just tonight. Going on with the keeper, he qualified 3rd as well. The top 4 were all in the same place where they qualified, so whether he's been able to put in a bit of practice, whether he's changed something over the 2-week break I've had, I'm not sure. Again, this could just be a track that he really enjoys. I know a lot of people do like it, a lot of people don't like it just because of the nature of the track. They don't feel like it suits them. He's doing a great job at the moment, and he's probably going to get rewarded with a 2nd place. And like you said, we wouldn't have expected that. He's 15th in the championship, and he's not really looked as though he's had a chance to challenge at the front at any point this season. But this is all on pace tonight, so fair play to him.
Yeah, really, really good stuff from him, and he'll be another person to add to our list of many drivers that finish on the podium already this season. So that is a really, really good drive from TTGaming, and see if he can keep this up as the night goes on and as the season goes on as well. Wesker still holding on to 4th, just about over AJ, who, like you said, with that ERS disadvantage, just can't really do anything. And with the penalties that he's got, actually, while Adamako is going to lose out to one of the Williams, he's actually going to gain on the other Williams. So Fatsand at the end of this race could still end up in 5th place by the end of this one. That would be some result for Fatsand. He's kind of been running around all on his own ever since the pit stop phase, which is a shame for him. He's had the pace, and Adamako actually picked up yet another penalty. So that's all but confirmed Faxland in 6th place, at least in this race. Ivoxara, meanwhile, running in 8th completely on his own. He's lost a bit of time in the last few laps, but he's had a solid drive as well. Even with a drive-through penalty, he's had a good pace, but we're going to run with Perpetuum for the final lap of the race. What a dominant drive it's been. Like we said earlier on, you wouldn't have known that he'd spun on the first lap of the race out of 1st place down to about 6th place on the road. He's just looked so in control. That gap is now 9 seconds ahead of Cam, who has looked arguably one of the fastest drivers all season long, and has had probably the upper hand in qualifying all season long has Cam. But Perpetuum we know Perpetuum had the speed. He obviously won last time out in Baku, but this is on another level from Perpetuum. Most of his wins we've seen him do on the alternate strategy and coming through the field. This one is kind of led from the front, and he's absolutely dominated as he now comes down to the final chicane for the last time, for the 18th time in this race. What a dominant drive from Perpetuum. He's going to come up to the line and he's going to win round 9 of the season. What a drive for Perpetuum. Across the line he comes. Cam is going to be the next person across the line, but Takeeper, with less penalties than his teammate, is going to pick up a second place finish. What a drive from both McLarens, but Takeeper is the one that wins out ahead of Cam. Wesker's going to finish in fourth place in this race ahead of AJ, who crosses the line 5th. Adamako jumps ahead of him, but Fat Sand, you would imagine, is going to jump ahead of the pair of them. He's lost a bit of time in these last few laps, but he has jumped ahead of both Adamako and AJ in that race. A great drive from Fat Sand in the end. Ivoxara will be next to cross the line. He's lost a lot of time in this last lap, but he's running around on his own in 8th place. A good recovery from a drive-through penalty. TTG Mays, who's been on his own as well this entire race, will cross the line in 9th place, still picking up points. That will help him in his battle with Tekken at the moment for 8th place in the standings. He crosses the line in 9th place ahead of Silas, who's going to pick up 10th in the Alfa Romeo, and Tekken, who'll be the last to cross the line in the other Alfa Romeo, in 11th place. But I mean, we've said it a number of times already, but what a drive from Perpetuum that was.
I think all round that's been the performance of the season. We've seen Perpetuum put in good races, but normally he's had to fight his way up from the back of the field for whatever reason. Qualifying, he was peerless. Racing was peerless. Apart from that spin, it didn't matter. He still won by, even after penalties, he still won by 10 seconds. Fantastic job from him. The game giving the drive of the day for AJ, who probably just earned it from that amazing first lap. Shame he picked up so many penalties as well. Perpetuum's shown some fantastic form. He'll be hoping to, I believe, be the first person to win 2 races on an evening in this sprint championship.
Yeah, we haven't had that so far. So that's crazy to believe that we haven't had that with some of the races we've seen from some people. Like some dominant races we've seen so far in the first night of the first race of the night, and then they've not gone on to do the same thing at the next race. I wonder if that will continue, but that is some gauntlet that Perpetuum has laid down. What a dominant drive. 10 seconds clear of the rest of the field at the end of that race, even with the spin. Who knows, without a spin, he probably could have been nearly a pit stop ahead of the rest of the field. He probably just could have done a 2-stop race for the fun of it, but my word, what a drive from Perpetuum. A 1 minute 9.6 as well for the fastest lap. That's a second faster than nearly everyone in the field. The only person that got close to it was Cam on a 10.5. My word, what a lap time that was from Perpetuum. He wins the race with the fastest lap and pole position. Takeeper gets second place. What a drive from him ahead of Cam in third. A double podium for McLaren. Wesker finishes in fourth ahead of Faxland in fifth. Adamako in 6th place. His championship lead would have shrunk after that round. And AJ in 7th place. Ivoxara in 8th ahead of Mays, 9th, and Silas 10th. Tekken, the last of the finishers, in 11th. And we've had Ethan, Neymar, Honey Badger, and Turbo Clausen all retired. They won't pick up points because of their retirements. They were out of the race fairly early on, most of them, apart from Ethan. He was a little bit later on in the race. But my word, that was a thrilling race. At the end of it, though, that I just can't get over how good that drive was.
Yeah, it was the recovery after lap 1. We still don't know if there was any contact between him and Cam, or whether he just got it a bit wrong on traction and sent it spinning round. Recovered fantastically, though. Didn't let it affect him. I know there might be other people out there who might have just, got a bit angry after that, but he was clean with his performances, probably because he knew no matter what, he just seemed to have the pace and there was nothing anyone could do to stop him. Great end to round 9 of the season. Let's see how he does at round 10, around the Paul Ricard circuit. Very different track, as we said earlier, to Canada. Penalties are going to play a big part here because of the runoff area being so forgiving. It's in real life, there's a bit more abrasiveness to the tarmac on the runoff area. On the F1 game, it's pretty much just an extension of the track when you've got regular track limits on. You can't do that with strict. We're going to see a lot of penalties in this, and that could mean we get a different pole sitter as well if someone invalidates in qualifying.
Yeah, that is the case. We'll have to wait and see if that does come true. We'll have to wait and see if anyone can challenge Perpetuum at the front of the field. Meanwhile, Cam has actually just put a message into the stream to say that he did actually clip Perpetuum on the first lap. So it wasn't on his own. It was by someone else's. That was contact from someone else. So maybe that's why Cam's pit stop was so slow. Maybe he did have a front wing change to get rid of it. But even with the front wing change, that's still a good result for Cam in third place. But I'm surprised that he did make that change to the pit stop, because it didn't look like a lot of damage. I mean, we couldn't see it on our end. I noticed we couldn't see it on our end. And he had good pace even with the front wing damage he maybe had. So I think Cam, maybe with that pit stop, cost himself maybe a second place in that race.
Yeah, very possibly. He seemed to have better pace than everyone but Perpetuum, I think it's fair to say. Even if he just stayed ahead, I think Perpetuum was getting the move done fairly comfortably, judging by the pace difference he had and how smoothly he got past all the other drivers. We'd never have known. He got a third place in the end. I don't think he'll be too upset about that. He'll have a chance to recover this time around. And like everyone else, I'll just be hoping that was a one-off from the German in the Ferrari.
Yeah, fingers crossed for the rest of the drivers that isn't going to be how it is in France. France, obviously, a completely different track in nature. One of the longest tracks on the calendar that we have, with an incredibly long back straight. That Mistral straight is such a long one. Obviously, we have the chicane in the middle of it, but apart from the chicane, though, you've got to say that this track is quite sparse with overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, turn one's a possibility at the end of the other DRS zone, but you could normally... To get that, you need to rely on someone making a mistake into turn 15. Sometimes you see drivers going side by side through 10 and 11 as well, but not too much. You've got to rely again on a bit of a mistake through the chicane. That Mistral straight is going to be all important, getting the braking right into turn 8 and making sure you go down the right layout. I think there's 176 different layouts at Paul Ricard, and this would be a much tougher circuit if they got rid of all the braking boards, got rid of the track map, and just said, right, you need to remember how to get around here.
I'm amazed they've been able to fit such a massive amount of different track layouts to this circuit, because if you actually look at the design of the track from above, it's actually quite narrow. It doesn't take up a lot of space, this track. It is a lot of different track layouts compact into a very small venue compared to a lot of places like Silverstone, which is obviously an older airport. So this is actually quite a small area for a lot of track layouts as well. I don't know how you personally feel about this track. I do think that this track is actually, I think it's quite underrated. I do think this track to actually drive is quite a nice track, but in real life Formula 1 at least, it doesn't provide maybe the best racing that we've seen.
I agree. I enjoy driving around it. I think it's quite a technical, challenging circuit, but racing-wise, especially with real Formula 1, because you've got that high level of downforce and only one real overtaking opportunity, just doesn't lend itself to exciting races. The two we've seen so far have just been absolute Mercedes domination, because it plays to their strengths of having the best overall package, obviously. Pretty good engine straight line speed, you've got to say. Mercedes engines have been the ones to have since the hybrid era, and that is why. Obviously, we don't know what it would have been like this year, and we don't know, maybe in the future they might look at tweaking one of the layouts.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We're going to ride on board, though, with Faxan, the other Williams driver this time round, for a lap around the circuit. Paul Ricard, Le Castellet, otherwise known as, into turn 1 and 2. Quite a high-speed chicane this is for the start of the lap. And now we head further down the track, then down towards the end of the first sector, into the turn 3, 4 and 5. It's kind of a lazy chicane through 3 into 4 and then into the hairpin of 5 before we end the first sector. A bit of a lock-up there from Faxan through turn 5. Now through the long turn 6. Don't ruin the traction here, because it can ruin your run all the way down through 7 and then down the Mistral straight. An incredibly long back straight, even with the chicane in it. Without the chicane, this would be probably one of the longest straights on the F1 calendar. We now head down towards that chicane. Honey Badger's already out of the session. It looks like he's invalidated. Now into the 8 and 9 chicane. Don't take too much curb, because it can unsettle the car. And the same on the exit of turn 9. And now down the second part of the straight towards the flat-out right-hander of turn 10. Absolutely brilliant corner this one is. In Formula 1, it looks a little bit underwhelming because it's so easy flat, but it isn't. In real life, it is such a spectacle to watch them go through that corner, through the double apex turn 11, a little bit cambered, so you can take a bit more speed, head into turn 12, which is off cambered, so you have to be careful where you brake and where you turn the car here. Through 12, don't hit the curb on the inside, run a little bit wide on the exit, and now through turn 13 and into the braking zone of 14, a little bit off camber this corner as well. Don't take too much curb. Fat Sam runs a little bit wide in the second part, ready for 15, so doesn't get the best turn in for the final hairpin. Now it's a long run to the start finish line, which has been moved further down the straight for this game. It is just a little bit down and across the line. De Keeper's the one that's actually got onto pole position. A great lap time from De Keeper, a 28.3. Faxan ended up second ahead of Adamako, but Perpetuum went 5th on the medium compound tyres. He's once again going for that alternate strategy.
The alternate strategy, there's certain tracks on the F1 game where the alternate strategy is very powerful. This is one of them, so maybe he just feels a bit more comfortable and knows that he can comfortably go medium soft rather than going soft medium. That doesn't look like great news for everyone. I think, again, he's fantastic lap from him. Cam only in 9th place, despite actually a clean lap. So a clean lap in terms of valid. He must have made a mistake somewhere to be that far down the order. 4 drivers out of 14 invalidating their lap. Probably not too surprised to see that. And Adamako back up there after not the best qualifying last time around. Yeah,
but qualified by De Keeper and Faxand once again. So great stuff from De Keeper. He's happy to continue that pace. Faxand second, Adamako and Wesker, and then Perpetuum in the top 5. Tekken in 6th. Good lap from him. Neymar 7th, then Mays, Cam, Ivoxara round off the people that set a time. AJ, Ethan, Honey Badger, and Silas were the ones not able to set a time. And once again, AJ not able to set a valid time. He's got good pace, but we saw from, well, qualifying in Canada and in the race that AJ seemingly struggling to keep the car on the road.
Yeah, and that's always That's always going to cost you, and I've mentioned it just before the qualifying session started. This track especially, the penalties quite often. A lot of the 50% races I've commed on around here, probably more than any other circuit, I've seen drivers getting disqualified. So that won't happen tonight, I imagine. It'd be very difficult. We could see a lot of drivers in the 10-second region of penalty, so 9-12 seconds. And that's without getting any speed lane penalties, of course. And the pit lane entrance is different here. They did update it on F1 2019 halfway through the game cycle, and it is a bit of an easier pit lane entry than it used to be, but the exit is still very awkward.
It is very awkward. Obviously, with the new entrance to the pit lane, while it is easier to enter, you enter at a much higher speed than you did in the last game. Because obviously, when you turn out of the final corner and into the pit lane, you were travelling at a much slower speed. You're well over 200 kilometers an hour heading into the penultimate corner. So that is very easy to get a speeding penalty into this pit lane, especially with the pit lane being 37 miles an hour. We've gone from Canada, which is one of the shortest time losses in terms of pit lane, to probably the longest on the calendar, with it being a 37 mile an hour speed limit and a very long pit lane as well. So at this track, maybe a drive-through penalty for a jump start or anything like that, or an unnecessary pit stop at the start of the race, this is the track that it's going to probably cost you the most at.
Yeah, definitely. Thankfully for all the drivers, the formation lap is on, so they're not going to be surprised by that. Again, the keeper with a fantastic qualifying session. Perpetuum, the only one in the top 10 on the medium tyres. AJ and Honey Badger on those as well, but Honey Badger's tyres are going to be significantly colder than he would have liked, seeing as he's been involved in something with Silas by the looks of things on this formation lap. AJ got an absolutely fantastic start last time. He's going to have to do the same again to get a good result, so we'll see what sort of pace he can do if he manages to set a clean lap. Likewise with Honey Badger, because again, that seems to be a pattern with Honey Badger as well, not managing to keep it clean in qualifying, and if you do start at the back, you're probably more likely to get incidents.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of put yourself at the risk of the people at the back of the field, and obviously a Constantina effect is very common in Formula 1, especially when you get to the lower speed part of the circuit towards turn 3, 4 and 5. It's very easy to get caught up behind someone who's trying to avoid someone else, so you have to wait and see how that one pans out as we get towards the latter stages of the first sector of the first lap. We've also got to look out for Cam in this race. Cam only 9th, obviously with a mistake in qualifying. Cam has been probably the fastest person in the second race of the evening, pretty much every round we've gone to so far. He has been very strong in the second race, and that's when he usually picks up wins, but for the first time this season, in the second race, he's on the back foot.
Yeah, we'll have to see what he can do. Like we said, overtaking not that easy. You probably want to get it done in the first 2 laps before DRS gets activated, or you might be able to try the undercut, because I do imagine that will be more powerful around this circuit just because of the higher rate of tyre wear. That final sector, an absolute killer for the tyres on the car, and I'm sure this is going to be a fairly exciting race. We're just waiting for AJ and Ethan to get onto the grid. The front two haven't won a race this season. In fact, the keeper's the only one to get a podium out of those front two this season. Then you've got the top two in the championship behind them, and Perpetuum, who looks in imperious form on the row behind. So this should be a very good race indeed, as we now wait for the lights to come on here at Paul Ricard. We've got 5 lights, and we are underway. The driver's not held for very long whatsoever. A good start from the keeper. Faxland just getting a bit of wheel spin there, and that's allowed Adamako to maybe get alongside into turn 1, and he's going to try and go all the way down the inside. Oh, Faxland's tried to hold on. There's been contact between himself. Oh, and there's a Ferrari round. That will be Perpetuum going around. Perpetuum's round. Ethan in an incident as well. Neymar getting a 5-second penalty for a severe collision. It has all kicked off on lap 1 then. I'm not sure whether that was just a concertina effect after Faxland, who did a fantastic job of holding on to that car after the contact with Adamako, but it's the keeper in the lead. Adamako second, Wesker in third, Tekken with a fantastic job. He's got himself up into 4th place, just avoiding all that carnage on the first lap. Faxland now looks like he could be down a few more places. Contact with him and Ibrox Sava. That was a bit of an aggressive defence, I think it's fair to say, from the Williams driver. Thankfully no damage, but further down the field, Perpetuum was involved in that spin. A lot of this race could depend on whether he actually managed to get any front wing damage or not, because we've seen him recover once already, and that front wing looks in pretty good condition at the moment. And there we go, down the inside on Silas. Ethan, his teammate, was not so lucky, so he might have to come into the pit. Fantastic start from the keeper then to take the lead of this race, and Adamako Bit of contact maybe with Faxlander. We said it's very difficult to go side by side at a lot of this circuit. He just managed to get ahead though of Faxland, who did hold on to that 5th place, but he's coming into the pit, so I wonder if he did just pick up a tiny bit of damage.
I think we had 3 versions of the same incident at turn 2. We had Adamako and Fatsan getting together. I think Perpetuum, and I want to say it was Tekken that got together at the second corner as well. And then I think Cam got into contact with Neymar in exactly the same fashion. Cam spun the car, but didn't pick up any damage, so he's dropped down into 11th place. Neymar picked up a hefty amount of front wing damage, so he's in to change that and put on a set of medium tyres. And he's got a time penalty, I think, as well for contact because of it. Silence already with a time penalty as well. We've got to look out for these medium runners though. AJ once again with a great start up to 7th place. Honey Badger's had a good start as well. He's up to 8th. He's avoided all of that carnage. I think maybe for the first time this season he's been able to avoid it. And Perpetuum obviously on those medium tyres directly behind as well. Their first target is Maze, who's looking like he's struggling a little bit, as is Ivoxara as well in 5th on those soft tyres. The soft tyres at this track do go off very quickly indeed. That is very hard on the tyres, like you say, especially that final sector on the front left. It really kills the tyres around here. You can get a lot of tyre overheating, but dream start for Takeeper to hold the lead, but he's got the top 2 in the championship directly behind him, and they are looking to recover from a relatively poor showing in the first round.
Yeah, and again, AJ, we had a fantastic start to the race. He's up into 6th, so he had Maze looking all over the back of him there. Honey Badger having a clean first lap, which I'm sure will come as a bit of a relief to him after the last few races. He's on the medium tyres as well, so watch out for AJ, Honey Badger and Perpetuum coming back through the field for a second race in a row, as Perpetuum's going all the way round the outside at the penultimate corner to get the inside for the final corner. Honey Badger gets the better exit though. The keeper with the fastest lap of the race, DRS, will be enabled, so they'll be able to use it down the Mistral straight, and Ivoxara is at the front of a DRS train, so that could make it difficult for Maze, Honey Badger and Perpetuum to maybe get a move done. And likewise at the front of the race, Wesker and Tekken, might be worth them trying an undercut to try and get some free air if they want a chance of winning.
Yeah, and Perpetuum here at the moment is looking so fast in that Ferrari. It's all Maze a little bit wide there through 4. Honey Badger's around the outside for 5. That's going to compromise his line. Can Perpetuum take advantage of that? Not quite. Is nearly into the back of the Renault man, but you can already tell these soft tyres are going off. AJ has now the fastest lap of the race on the mediums. He's already on the back of Ivoxara, and Ivoxara moves right to the left-hand side to defend the line, and that's going to allow AJ to look to the outside line. There's not enough room though. Ivoxara moves back onto the racing line. AJ wasn't alongside, and Maze is able to close back in. Someone went deep into the chicane. That was Honey Badger, who's gone straight on through the chicane. He comes back out and he's going to get a penalty. Yes, he is, for cutting the track. So he's come back out well down as Maze has spun the car coming out of turn 9 and has hit the wall. That's so easy to do, especially if you hit that curb when he's in the wall. What he was looking like he could have had a good race, but that is going to take him well out of contention. AJ now with a time penalty, but he's worked his way past Ivoxara and is up into 5th place. 2.3 seconds to Tekken in front, who's not that far off the top 3. These medium tyres looking very strong.
Yeah, they are indeed. Tekken actually doing a pretty decent job at the moment. A bit like the keeper in the first race. We're not used to seeing him this high, and it doesn't look like he's perhaps got the pace to stick on the back of Wesker. He is dropping back ever so slightly. I think Honey Badger might have got a bit unlucky there with Maze spinning. I wonder if Maze hadn't have spun, whether Honey Badger might not have got a penalty off the game. Probably, though, he should have gone round the bollards as they are shown, just to stop someone ploughing through the corner and not gaining an advantage, but not really losing anything for getting the braking zone wrong. And a few times on this lap, we've seen that classic Honey Badger trait of him having to grab hold of the rear of the car before it goes spinning around. It's a bit like Vettel's Ferrari. It looks like that Renault wants to spin at every possible opportunity. We've had Cam and Maze come into the pits as well, so they've got 10 laps to do on a set of mediums.
That is a long way to go on a set of mediums, but it's fair enough. Cam's trying to get the undercut on the lights of Perpetuum, Honey Badger and Ivoxara when this race finishes. Ethan is now out of the race, unfortunately, in the pit lane, so he won't be able to score any points tonight. Meanwhile, Honey Badger going for the move on Ivoxara at the chicane round the outside. Ivoxara a little bit late on the brakes. There's a little bit of wheel banging, but they get away with it. Honey Badger holds the place, and Ivoxara runs completely off the track in avoidance of the Renault. He comes back on directly in between Honey Badger and Perpetuum. That was beautiful, but he's going to have another go back down the inside of Honey Badger. He's going to get the move done, so good stuff from Ivoxara. Can Perpetuum capitalise on that one down the inside of turn 11? Honey Badger leaves him the room. Perpetuum trying to go for 2 for 1 here. Can he pull that one off? He's past Honey Badger. He's now got the inside line, made that the outside line for 12 on the outside of Ivoxara, but the nature of the corner would allow Ivoxara. He's going to run wide though. Honey Badger into the back of Ivoxara, picks up damage. Perpetuum off the road, passes Ivoxara. I wonder if he'll have to let him back through for maybe a time penalty, and Honey Badger well off into the wall. He's just completely given up. One saw in Monaco, he's put the car in the wall. Ivoxara is into the pit lane, and Perpetuum goes up into 6th place. He got 2 for 1, but at Honey Badger's expense.
Yeah, Honey Badger out of this race. I think a bit of frustration there. Obviously, I do wonder with Perpetuum if just because of that bit of contact with Ivaxara, that's why he was allowed to keep that position, because he could use the I mean, you can't argue with the in-game stewards, funnily enough, but if you could, you'd use the argument of, well, I was forced off track there. He's now on the back of AJ, and he's not got any penalties. You just get the feeling from this race that he's got a really good chance. Adamako and Dekeeper have been into the pit, so Adamako coming out in plenty of free air to use those medium tyres, and after 2 races that, I don't want to say bad races, they were still pretty good. He still got some healthy points. You get a funny feeling this is exactly what he needed to maybe start boosting his championship lead over his teammate and just maybe hold Perpetuum at bay for a while longer.
Yeah, we completely missed it, but Adamako has actually worked his way past Dekeeper. So while Dekeeper led in the early phases, Adamako is now our net race leader. Meanwhile, AJ is going to get the move done on Tekken, so he continues his charge forwards. He's only 2.2 seconds behind Wesker, so really AJ's race now depends on how well he can hold these medium tyres once Wesker comes in, and what the pace is going to be like for the Racing Points and Dekeeper on their fresh set of medium tyres, and whether the soft tyres will have really any advantage at the end of this race. The soft tyres just haven't looked strong whatsoever. Perpetuum as well, 1.3 seconds behind to Tekken, still not out of this one, and doesn't have a penalty as well. AJ obviously does have penalties once again. Wesker is into the pit lane, so is Tekken. So they are the final of our soft runners to come in at the end of lap 5. You couldn't really take those soft tyres any longer than that, and that is not a long way into this race. So they are in. Wesker, you would imagine, will come out behind Adamako and Dekeeper ahead of Ivoxara quite comfortably. That would be in a net P3, but he will be under massive pressure when AJ comes in for a set of soft compound tyres, as from Perpetuum as well in that Ferrari, who somehow, after all the contacts he's had in this race, is still right in the thick of the battle. So he'll be looking to try and work his way back to the back of that Williams driver and back in this battle for the podium places. But Adamako now our net race leader. Keeper, though, doing the same thing that he did in Canada, and while he may not have the same pace as the driver in front, is just kind of sticking with them and waiting for them to make a mistake.
Yes, and when Perpetuum, well, if Perpetuum and AJ catch up to these guys after their pit stop, which I imagine they will, these two being in each other's DRS just could help them defend. Looks like Honey Badger, he actually had his car drive straight onto the wall, so apologies for that, because we wondered if it was a bit of frustration maybe. I've got to say, I've seen that happen to a few drivers where for whatever reason, steering wheel or even controllers have just failed and sent the drivers spearing off to the wall, and that's a shame for him, because again, it looked like he had actually had a chance of a good race, but for whatever reason, just Wednesdays is just not his night whatsoever. The keeper's actually showing pretty good pace. He's just staying around half a second behind, so he's not really close enough to have a go on Adamako, but any penalty from the Racing Point driver, he'll be right in a shot of maybe taking a win straight after getting his first podium.
Yeah, and I think Takeepa's driving very smart here. I think he knows that when AJ and Perpetuum come into the pit lane that they are going to have a massive tyre advantage in the last maybe 4 or 5 laps of this race. So he knows that if any time they start wasting by battling each other, it's just going to cost them as this race goes on. And with the pace that AJ and Perpetuum are running, it could cost Takeepa another podium. So he's just trying to stick with Adamako and just both of them trying to pull away. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Cam picks up a time penalty. Meanwhile, Perpetuum's closing in on AJ. Perpetuum is not pulling away from Adamako, but Adamako's not gaining. So Adamako, even on the fresh medium tyres, hasn't got that much of a pace advantage here. So AJ, he was about 2 seconds behind Wesker when he came into the pit lane. So AJ, you would imagine, is going to come out maybe close to Tekken and Cam, but still probably in the net P4 in this race. So that is looking great for the Williams driver, even with the penalties he's got. And Perpetuum as well in the Ferrari. There's alternate strategy working out nicely for them, as Takeepa's only half a second behind Adamako. So I think even if Takeepa does go for the move, I don't think it will be too long before he'll maybe try and go for it. I think Takeepa has the pace to pull away from Adamako if he does go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Takeepa is looking pretty good at the moment. When's he going to go for that move? Maybe if he starts feeling a bit of pressure from some of the cars behind. For AJ and Perpetuum, I think what's going to be key is, like you said, where they come out relative to Tekken, they do not want to come out behind Tekken and Cam, especially if Cam manages to get DRS. Should be fairly straightforward for them with the tyre life advantage and having the softer tyres. It's just an extra lap longer that they might have to spend stuck behind a car, and it is not what you want whatsoever when you're fighting for the front of the race. This could be one of those where the final lap or two we see some moves, and if there's any late penalties, because fair play to the drivers, they kept it fairly clean so far, that could change everything.
Yeah, it really, really could. And AJ, unfortunately, for the second race tonight, the penalties are gonna cost him at this point. He's already got, I believe, 6 seconds of penalties in this race, so he's really going to struggle. Perpetuum continues to close in on AJ. So while Perpetuum's finding pace on these medium tyres, AJ not quite finding the same thing. Perpetuum was about 0.6 of a second faster than AJ on that last lap, so he'll be well within DRS range by the time this lap finishes. You would imagine these guys are probably going to come in at the end of lap line to put a set of soft tyres on because of how quickly those soft tyres degraded. So I'll wait and see when they do come in. TTGaming, meanwhile, continues to hound the back of Adamako. Adamako had good initial pace on these medium tyres out of the pit lane, but TTGaming doing a very good job at holding on, and Wesker is closing in on the pair of them, so Wesker looking a little bit faster than both of them on these medium tyres. Tekken losing touch, but he's got Cam directly behind him, and the problem as well for AJ and Perpetuum here is if they start battling over the first place on track, they are not. It's not out the question that they could lose out to Ivoxara and Faxland, and that would really be the nail in their coffin for the battle for the win.
Yes, definitely. I mean, at the moment, if assuming around 25 seconds for a pit stop, I think it is somewhere in that region. They're going to come out just behind Cam. It might be a bit less depending on how aggressive you are, although it does look like Cam's not going to spend too long behind Tekken at the moment. He seems to be struggling on these mediums a bit more than he was on the softs. And yeah, if they start battling, that's going to hold them up. If they get stuck behind cars like this who are battling, that's going to hold them up, and we're going to find out soon where they will come out. They are into the pits. They'll have 5 laps to do on the soft tyres, which is it's comfortably manageable given the lower fuel levels that they're now on. This could be very interesting indeed.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll ride with Perpetuum where he comes out. He'll obviously be the second of the 2 drivers coming out of the pit lane. AJ will be the leading driver out the pits. He was leading coming in, but they were very close to each other. Adamako will retake the lead of the race, and then TTGaming will to retake second. Wesker will retake third, and Wesker's continuing to close in on our top 2. So Wesker still not out of the question that he could be a factor in this one. AJ comes out of the pit lane well clear of Cam and Tekken as they are pushing each other right to the limits down the pit straight. Their little battle in the final sector, though, could have cost them. Cam 6th now, ahead of Tekken in 7th, but AJ and Perpetuum come out 4th and 5th. That's worked out beautifully for both of them.
Yeah, I think they nailed everything with the pits and not having any damage, possibly. Did well. 22, 23 seconds by the looks of things in the pit stop. So a bit shorter than I remember it being. I must just be very conservative with that pit lane limiter line when I'm driving around this circuit. But like you said, Cam and Tekken were battling fairly hard throughout that entire final sector. That could have just cost them ever so slightly. And TTGaming, I just noticed the gap then go down to about 0.1 of a second. And I wondered if he was going for a move on Adamako, but he's still there. Maybe if he sees AJ coming up behind him in 3rd place, that might give him a bit of a hurry up to get the move done.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I think he'll probably be a little bit more worried about Perpetuum, though. Perpetuum still's got the pace, and AJ, if he does pass TTGaming, it doesn't really matter too much if he can just stick with AJ for a little bit because of the penalties he has. And TTGaming at the moment, keeping that car nice and neat on the road. Adamako's race win now fully depends on his teammate. How nice is Wesker feeling? Is he going to let AJ through? Is he going to battle him really hard? Obviously, Wesker is right in the thick of this championship battle. He lets both of them go. Look at that. He broke well before turn 14. So he's just 3rd place on the track. He knew they had the pace and just gave up the places. So Wesker put up literally no fight at all, let them through, drops to 5th place, and now AJ's up to 3rd and Perpetuum's up to 4th. Now that for me, as Perpetuum's going to go for the move on AJ down towards turn 1, and AJ can't fight it, so Perpetuum now up into 3rd place with no penalties. He's put himself right in the pound seat to win 2 races in a row, and that could be brilliant for his championship battle. But if I was Wesker, surely you should have put up a fight, because AJ now has the opportunity to pull away from Wesker and build that penalty gap.
Even just, you didn't have to put up a fight, but you could have just let them pass on the Mistral Straight, where it would have made, well, I let one of them pass on the Mistral Straight at the first part of it, and then Perpetuum or AJ, whichever one at that point would have been behind, you'd have probably been able to get ahead of them last time around. I mean, AJ's probably thinking, oh, cheers a bunch, mate, because that meant AJ didn't have DRS going down towards turn 1, and that allowed Perpetuum to get ahead. But yeah, very strange from Wesker, I've got to say. I'm not quite sure why he did that. I understand thinking, yeah, if it's someone else's battle, but to break like that, he could have definitely lost himself a lot less time. Because, like you said, he's now 2 seconds behind AJ, and I can't see him keeping up at all enough to take advantage of the penalties. So I think he's just admitted that he's going to finish in 5th position. He's probably cost his teammate any chance of a victory as well.
Yeah, he probably has now. Perpetuum's already only 0.6 of a second behind TTGaming, and he's dragging AJ with him. So now we've got 3 laps to go in this race when they cross the line. Surely these two cannot hold Perpetuum back, even with to keep him within DRS range of Adamako. Just the tyre grip alone that Perpetuum has should keep him ahead, should get him ahead of the McLaren man. Perpetuum with a 30.3. What a lap time that was. He's well clear of anyone else's fastest time. And Tekeeper, I think Tekeeper's waited a little bit too long to make this move on Adamako, because he's been tucked right up behind Adamako for the last 4 or 5 laps, has looked miles faster than the Racing Point man, has just waited to make the move at the right time. And I think he's waited too long this time round, because Perpetuum and AJ directly behind him. Perpetuum a little bit wide there, coming out of 5, looking for the good run down 6. Will Tekeeper go for the move this time round? He's on the ERS much earlier than he usually is. I think he's going to go for the move on Adamako. Adamako could get swamped here down towards the chicane. Tekeeper's going to go to the inside line. Adamako doesn't defend it. Adamako's going to drop to second place. Where's Perpetuum in all that? He's not close enough into the chicane, but Tekeeper now takes the lead. Adamako drops to second place, and Perpetuum is directly behind him. Perpetuum surely could get the move done down towards turn 10. He's already down the inside with just the superior traction. Coming off the corner, looks down the inside of Adamako. He's on his ERS trying to hold the place. Tekeeper's going to get swamped here now. Perpetuum once again going for 2 for 1 down towards turn 11. Another superior grip. He's absolutely nailed it. He waited for the right moment. He outsmarted both Adamako and Tekeeper. Tekeeper went for it. Perpetuum just waited for the second straight and got the move done on the pair of them. Brilliant stuff from Perpetuum, and surely the race win is now sealed for him.
Yeah, and Tekeeper seems to be struggling a bit on traction. There's a few times this lap I've noticed he's had a bit of a wobble. He got away with the one on out of 6 into 7 onto the Mistral straight, but he just had a bit of a wobble through Cygnus turn 10, and that's what really allowed Perpetuum to get alongside and get the move done. And now AJ's got ahead of Adamako, so he's up into 3rd place. He'll be hoping to get past Tekeeper as soon as possible. There's still a very slim chance here that AJ could get a 2nd place.
Yeah, it's still on the cards. At the moment, he's nearly doing enough to get ahead of Wesker, and Wesker's now being caught by Cam after that breakthrough that he did a couple laps ago. He's now being caught by Cam. Cam does have a penalty, but it's not out of the question that Wesker could pick one up himself as well, so Cam's not out of that battle for 5th place just yet. AJ now looking for the run on Tekeeper, down the Mistral straight. Tekeeper's already 1.5 seconds behind Perpetuum, and AJ is just going to breeze down the inside line, even with no ERS at all. We just had such a run coming onto the straight that Tekeeper could do nothing about it. AJ now up into 2nd place. Tekeeper drops to 3rd, and now it's a battle really between Tekeeper and Adamako to see who can keep closest to AJ and retake that 2nd place. But Perpetuum now in the lead, comfortable margin with no penalties. He should have this one sewn up. Wesker then, like we said, in 5th place, losing touch with AJ and is not really going to be in penalty range if he keeps this pace up. Cam is closing in. Tekken now down to 7th. That looks like where he's going to stay at the moment. He's comfortably ahead of Ivox Sara in the Haskar, who currently runs 8th. Neymar and Faxan. Faxan's pitted for the 2nd time in this race after an early pit stop for a damage, and Perpetuum now picks up a time penalty. And the keeper's not out of penalty range just yet. It is 1.8 seconds between them. If Tekeeper can keep with the back of AJ and stay in AJ's DRS zone, Tekeeper could still pick up the win.
He could do indeed, and Adamako, I think it's going to be tough, but Adamako could still pick up 2nd place here. Perpetuum has got to push like crazy on this lap here, and we said penalties could play a part. It looked fairly set for the final lap of the race, but now it's just Perpetuum driving as fast as possible, and the keeper's probably just hoping that AJ can keep up with Perpetuum ever so slightly as Cam picks up another penalty, so that now puts him under big pressure from Tekken behind, who you'd imagine is now going to take a 6th place. It does look though as though AJ's just not got the pace to keep up with Perpetuum, and that is what's costing Tekeeper more than anything, because obviously he's not got the tyre grip, he's in the dirty air, he's already nearly 3 seconds behind, so Perpetuum's made it a bit less comfortable than he would have liked it to. I do think he is going to take the 2nd victory of the night though.
Yeah, you would imagine in the final sector who'll have the tyre grip to be able to pull that gap. It's 2.5 seconds as they come out of turn 9, make that 2.6 on the exit of the corner. So Tekeeper is going to have to hope that AJ has some great pace in this final sector, and he has some great pace as well. He's used the reserves of his ZRS to keep as close to AJ as possible, but Perpetuum, you can tell, is flying on this final lap. He's pushing as hard as he can. The gap is 2.3 seconds. It's going to be close, but I think Perpetuum's going to have this one. Adamako won't be able to benefit on Perpetuum, but he will pass AJ on penalties in this one. It's going to be really close at the end of this one. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out. Perpetuum round the penultimate corner and then heading into the final corner of the lap. It could be 2 race wins on a night. It could be the first time we have the double race victory, and it looks like it could be that way. Perpetuum is going to cross the line and take race victory on track. AJ will take 2nd on track. How close is Tekeeper? Across the line, 0.003 of a second. Tekeeper misses out on the race win. What heartbreak for Tekeeper after his first podium in the race just previous to this one. Misses out on his first win of the season by 0.003 of a second. Talk about cutting it fine. I've never seen anything like it. Perpetuum left it late, but he just about got it. Adamako picks up a podium. 0.5 of a second covers the top three. Wesker gets 4th ahead of AJ, who drops to 5th. Tekken gets 6th, and Cam drops to 7th. Ivox Zara gets 8th, and then Fatsands will be next across the line with the fastest lap of the race in 10th place as Neymar passes him on penalties. Maze and Silas, who just wait for to finish the race. Perpetuum cut it fine. I've never seen anything like it. What heartbreak for Takipa, though, to miss up by such a small margin.
So cruel. We said it was going to be pretty close at the end. I wasn't expecting top 3 within 0.5 of a second thanks to penalties. And I just wonder, maybe if Wesker hadn't have let AJ and Perpetuum by, would that have held them up possibly by those extra 0.003 of a second that the keeper needed? We'll never know. We'll never know. Great job by Perpetuum, though, to get a second victory in a row. You've got to say, despite the fact that he won't be in the championship lead at the end of tonight, with the form he's starting to show, maybe we can't look past him. Still a long way to go, though. Still 12 rounds to go. Great for the keeper, though, to get 2 podiums, 2 second places tonight, so he's starting to show some really good form.
Yeah, that's really, really good for him. I think he's going to jump right into the top 10 with Honey Badger not scoring anything. I think that Takipa will probably end up in that 10th place in the standings, so that's great for him that he's been able to work his way up. It's been a good night for him. He's really outshone his teammate tonight, which is great to see as well. Perpetuum then wins the race by the finest of margins, 0.003 of a second. And the first time this season, we've had the same winner in 2 rounds on a night. So great stuff from Perpetuum. Beautiful for his championship standings. Currently 5th. He will jump ahead of Cam and Scuba at least. He maybe could get ahead of Wesker and into 2nd place in the standings, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Adamako gets 3rd on the podium. That's his first podium in a couple of races, but good stuff from him. It's a good clean race from him, and he will extend his championship lead a little bit at the end of this one. Wesker will be in 4th place across the line ahead of AJ in 5th. Again, penalties costing him a podium. Tekken in 6th ahead of Cam 7th. Ivoxara, Neymar and Faxland round off the top 10. Maze and Silas, your final finishers in 11th and 12th. Honey Badger, again, that Wednesday curse it's really horrid to him at the moment. He's just not able to get the results he would have wanted. And Etham as well out. He wasn't able to score points in either race tonight either. So both of those drivers had terrible nights. But while Adamako will keep the championship lead and it may extend a little bit over his teammate, Perpetuum has put in a stellar performance tonight.
Absolutely fantastic. 2 races in a row, he's had something happen to him on lap 1. Cam admitted, that was his fault. He apologised for what happened in Canada. Not quite sure what happened here. I think it was just your standard Turn 1 chaos. Even that didn't stop him. Even getting a penalty didn't stop Perpetuum. Best job we've seen so far this season. He is going to be extremely tough to beat for the rest of the season, I think, now.
Yeah, that is really the night of the season we've seen from any driver so far. No one's really come close to such a dominant performance in both races. That's absolutely brilliant stuff there from Perpetuum, and he's been threatening this pace all season long. He's obviously missed a couple rounds already. He's missed a couple nights, so about 4 rounds he's missed this season, and he's only 5th in the standings, and he's not that far off the championship lead. So if he's able to commit to the rest of the season, surely now, even with Adamako in the lead, Perpetuum's got to be the favourite.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Adamako, pretty decent race at the end there, but he just doesn't look to have that same pace that he had at the start of the season. He's still quick enough to get very good, consistent results, finishing in the points in both races, a podium in that second one. But it looks as though him and Wesker, everyone else has caught them up ever so slightly, and Perpetuum, you arguably say, is definitely surpassed. And another night for Cam, where he's had 1 good race and 1 bad race. You've got to wonder where he'd be in the championship if he could just get it together for both of the races.
Yeah, it's just really not gone his way. He's not had a lot of luck, and it looks like as well in that first round that it was contact from another driver that really cost him at the end of that one. Obviously, the penalties cost him in his battle with the likes of Wesker, and I believe it was Tekken as well. Yeah, Tekken. That's who it cost him with. But at the end of the day, kind of came from an incident that wasn't really his fault, unfortunately. So he'll be hoping for better luck next week. We go to Austria and Britain for the next round of the season, the halfway point of the season. Next time out, this championship has absolutely flown by already. But Austria and Britain, 2 again completely different tracks really in nature, both high speed, but Austria with a lot more heavy braking zones and a lot more high speed corners you will find at Silverstone. So look out for those 2 races. They are sure to be absolutely great rounds to watch. We'll wait and see whether Adamako and Wesker can bounce back, or can Perpetuum keep up this run of 4. But that is where we're going to end the stream off tonight, guys. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, for all the drivers as well for taking part, and thank you as well to Luke for joining me in the commentary box once again on a Wednesday night. Always a pleasure to commentate alongside you, and we will see you again this time next week for rounds 11 and 12 of the sprint league. But from myself and Luke, it is thank you very much and goodbye.